Hey lovelies, welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Today we're going to be talking about Queenshiba's interview with Winterharris exposing carlosking and production of Love and Marriage DC. Now, you don't need to have watched Love and Marriage DC because the focus of this would be as it relates to production and carlosking. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and everyone, please like, share, and don't forget to leave a comment. You guys know I love to have conversations in the chat, so don't forget to let me know what you guys think in the chat. Now let's get into it. So the interview pretty much starts with Queenshiba acknowledging, or at least trying to find out, what her last name is. It turns out that Winter had changed her last name from Winter Williams to Winterharris a while back, but the production team and all of that, they refused to change it. The network refused to change it. And it's just like, why would you not change something like that? A name has such a strong connotation. You know, some people even say your name is your destiny, right? And you don't want to be associated with a name that has brought you pain and stress and deceit, for instance, right? Also, there is more. Turns out she had told production she's no longer a relationship coach. She had left that life, but it did not suit the narrative of what they were trying to portray with season 1. So they actually still kept it on as she is a relationship coach. And this is the thing, I guess this is where editing can play a part, because a lot of the comments then when she joined the show was people saying, how can she be a relationship coach and then marry someone like that? And so it just wasn't adding up. So it was almost like that was being fueled by the fact that the show was portraying her as a relationship coach and continually still portrayed her as a relationship coach. Now, I know someone is going to say, well, she's no longer a relationship coach. It's not that big a deal. I understand that, but I feel like that also helps paint a narrative. If, for instance, someone was a relationship coach, I don't know, years back, and they had moved on from that life and then they made horrible decisions afterwards, it doesn't look as bad as someone who is still giving people that relationship coaching advice whilst their life is falling apart. Now, the thing about it, I've always felt, either way, right, is I've always felt like people were too harsh on her when it came to that relationship coach thing. Because just because you've had a bad relationship or you're in a bad relationship does not mean that you have not learned nuggets and things that could change and transform and even prevent people from making the same decisions that you've made. You know, like an example is someone not wanting to take advice from someone who's been divorced before. The truth of the matter is that person could even give you way better advice than someone who is now or in a loving, healthy relationship, because they can give you tips as to how you can avoid, for instance, a partner that they married, someone that they engaged with. So I feel like people need to be a little bit more gracious when it comes to that. Like, sometimes forget the vessel from which the advice is coming from and discern, is this advice good? Does this advice seem right based on the principles? Now, for me as a Christian, I'll be thinking based on the principles of the Bible and based on the principles of God. Does that relate? Is that accurate? Is that aligned? If it does, then test it with my spirit. Does it sit well with my spirit? Okay, then I know that's good advice, right? But just because someone has had a rough life and things did not work out for them in their own case does not mean that they cannot give you some valuable advice. I'm just putting that out there, because I have seen a lot of people talk about things like that in the past, and I just thought, like, let me just say that. Now let's talk about something that is really on my mind. The pay is crap, guys. The pay is crap. Apparently, she said, so she could not give us an exact number from the contract, but apparently they only pay about $2,500 per episode. I'm like, whoa. And then there is no budget for like makeup or wardrobe, that sort of thing. I have to say, as a sidebar, right? Winter is funny. I've always liked Winter. I thought that she was witty and funny, and even on the interview with Queen Shiba, darling, you could see that she was that, right? She was like lighthearted, she was funny. And because even when she was talking about the budget, she was saying about how like you can't be upset when people wear Shein and all these kind of things because they gotta come out their own money. So I feel like that gives us a little bit of context because like sometimes when I see the cast of Love and Marriage Huntsville wear a few things, I'm like, that don't look right. And I always used to wonder like what's up with like the wardrobe and stuff like that. Like is there a budget for it, or are these people like going out of budget as in out of what they're earning to do all of these things? What I do want to know is how long do they film for? Do they film like over the course of like, I don't know, a certain number of days? Like how many days in a week do they generally film? I would love to know what their filming schedule is like. That's just my little personal thing that I want to know. It's not like it's gonna put money in my bank account, but I'm just very curious about it. So if anyone knows, let me know in the comment section below. But going back to what Winter was saying in this interview, right? Winter said that in her opinion, she feels like, you know, I've always wondered about this whole season 1, season 1A, season 1, like what is going on with all of that, right? And she said she feels like the reason they keep it within the same season, well, in her opinion, is that they don't want people to be able to renegotiate their contracts so that they can get more. And I'm like, ooh, she's onto something. I think she's onto something. I can't lie, I'm inclined to agree with her that that is what it sounds like. It sounds like a financial decision on that one. Um, the other thing they did talk about when Love and Marriage DC went on a break for almost a year, and what was so weird was that like Winter was talking about the fact that she was as clueless as everyone else. She did not know what was going on. She did not know when the show was coming back. Carlos King or nobody did not communicate with her about when the show is returning. Like, I was like, really? That is so unprofessional. This is in my opinion. I just don't understand how you're not letting your cast members know when there's an expectation for when something will come up. You're not saying anything about it. But in the same breath, Carlos King wants a 2-week notice for cast members to leave. And I'm just like, that is so interesting that you want to be kept abreast, but you don't keep your cast members updated as to what is going on. That is a reach. I will say that. But I think she mentioned that he did apologize for that, so I'm not going to bang on about that. She talked about the toxicness or toxic nature of the working environment. And this is a thing that really, really bothered me because I feel like we've heard Melody talk about it to Carlos King. And of course, he kept saying or acting like he didn't know nothing about it and he's hearing it for the first time. It's like, it's a bit rich because it's like when it comes to like Bravo TV stuff, you know everything that's going on their end, but you don't know what's going on your shows. Like, I feel like he's just trying to play like he does not really know the ins and outs when that is a lie, in my opinion, right? Interestingly enough, that is something that Winter said as well. Winter believes that Carlos King practically knows everything, whether he admits to it or not. But then when he's in public, he's always acting like he doesn't know what's going on. So I was just like, that is such an interesting thing that we can see the parallels between Love and Marriage DC and Love and Marriage Huntsville, especially in particular the experience of Melody Cherie on the show. She also talked about, by she I mean Winter. Winter talked about not feeling valued on the show. Of course, like I said earlier, her name change, but also the toxic mess that was the reunion. I was like, what? She said it was like the most toxic sort of situation she had ever been in. Like, she even talked about her mother calling her to check in on her, saying like she didn't sound like herself, you know, the makeup and the wardrobe person like checking in on her because she was like, they were just like, wow, this is the worst reunion they've encountered. Like, are you okay? Like, it got to that extent. And the thing is, I know like we only see a few minutes, but even the few minutes that we saw was mad. So it's like one of those things where you're like imagining like, what kind of madness is this? Like, how can it escalate to that extent without anyone even stopping it? There was a point where she said this, and I was absolutely disgusted. Apparently, a lot of the men, almost all the men on the show, were coming at her verbally, berating her, speaking to her anyhow, and being aggressive towards her. And no one stopped it. It wasn't stopped by production. It wasn't stopped by the network. It wasn't stopped by nobody. They were like, ooh. And she even said this, and I'm trying not to trigger anyone, to trigger one in, but she even said about like someone in the background, one of the producers was like, get her, get her. Are you kidding me? What kind of toxic madness is that? Someone is being abusive to someone and berating them, and someone in the background, I get her, and is a producer? How incompetent, how unprofessional, how disgusting are you? Like, honestly, I was appalled. I was like, I can't say that I was shocked because we've seen what we've seen on Love and Marriage Huntsville. But to be at that extent and see that and see someone else talk about it, it's insane. And I hope more people come up and speak up about what it is that's happened, because it feels like they just don't care. They're doing whatever they feel like they can absolutely do and get away with, which is creating a toxic environment. No one should be working in such a toxic space. There's no reason to. And then you're not even paying them well enough. So it's like, you're not paying me well enough to then put me in a toxic situation. Like when I think about like jobs I've left, it was so toxic, or some jobs that I've left, it was so toxic, and then they weren't even paying me a good coin. I was like, you're not even paying me well for this ish. Like, what? Why I gotta stay here? I don't, and so I'm out. But what I will say is, listening to her was making me feel like there were so many parallels with Love and Marriage Huntsville. And shout out to Queen Shiba, darling. She did such an amazing job. If you guys have not watched it, I would encourage you to go over there and watch that video. Like, it's not even a long interview at all. Like, go watch it completely. I've given you a review of some of the key bits I took from it, and I wanted to talk about, but I feel like there's nothing as amazing as you guys watching it for yourself as well. Also, go support the Queen, honey, you know, in the palace. So yeah, absolutely watch that. But anyways, that is all I wanted to talk to you guys about today. But please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, especially if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, and those who have watched it as well. Let me know what you guys think. What did you think about Winter? Did you like her on the show? What did you think about her experience and the toxic situation that it seems like Own Network and carlosking allegedly are creating in the space? So please let us know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and that little bell button right next to it so you know every single time that I post. Let's continue the conversation in the chat, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.